In my last video, it was me talking about Sprite, and I mentioned in it there, with Sprite Elf, you can summon Merly, but I never explained what this actually means, so might as well go over it. The deck I'll be going over this episode, is Tearlaments. Also, quite recently, was majorly hit on the ban list, because it was just too powerful. It was even, well, it was known as a Tier 0 deck. Very ironic, the tier deck being Tier 0. But let's go over some of the cards. There's five effect monsters, 4 spells, 3 traps, and 3 fusion monsters. This is obviously a fusion deck. I'll start off with Merly, and when it's normal touch summon, we get to send the top 3 cards of our deck to the graveyard. Here is an effect that you're going to find a lot. I'm going to summarize it for you. If it's sent from anywhere to the graveyard, you can fusion summon using cards from your field, hand, or graveyard by putting them onto the bottom of your deck. It can be monsters from what would go back into your extra deck. So if you wanted to use a fusion monster to fusion summon with this card's effect, you can just put it back. You can only use each of its effects once per turn, however. We've got Haviness, that its unique effect makes it so if your opponent activates any monster effect, quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand and send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. And of course, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you get a fusion summon. Now you see why these cards have effects to send cards to the graveyard, because it's a fusion summon. Then Sharon makes it so during our main phase, we can special summon this card from our hand, and if we do, send one monster from our hand to the graveyard and the top cards of our deck to the graveyard. I should mention all of these monsters are Aqua Dark monsters. Next, let's go over Ruklos, who makes it so, if it's normal special, we can add any tier monster we want from our deck to our graveyard. So we get to do a fusion summon real quick. If this is in our graveyard, send it to our graveyard, you can special summon it and by banishing when it leaves the field, and if you do, send one tier from your hand to the graveyard. I'm going to use each effect once per turn. And our last monster is Tearlaments Kiklos. Tearlaments Kashtira. Psychic, unlike the others, being darks, and this one being the water warrior, so it's searchable by Rhoda. If this makes it so during the main phase, you can special summon this card from your hand by banishing one Kashtira or tier card from your hand or graveyard. If this card is normal special, you can send the top 3 cards of either player's deck to the graveyard. If this card is sent to the graveyard by card effect, you can send the top 2 cards of your deck to the graveyard. You can only use each of its effects once per turn. And hard ones per turns for all of those. Now, let's go over to our spells. First, we have Gift, which is a normal spell, which lets you special summon a Vsauce or tier from your deck or graveyard, then send one monster controlled to the graveyard with the same type or attribute as the monster special summoned. If this card is sent to the graveyard by card effect, you can target one banished tier trap, add to your hand. So, if you accidentally mill it off of a Merly, no problem. You get back your resources. Also, each of its effects is a hard once per turn, which is shared. So, if you use its first effect, you can't use its second effect. And if you use its second effect, you can't use its first effect. Then we have Heartbeat, which is a quick play spell card. It lets you target a spell trap on the field, or you can target 2 if you control Vsauce, which you're probably not going to. Shuffle them into the deck, and then send one card from your hand to the graveyard. You get rid of one of your opponent's cards, and get a card from your hand to the graveyard. Which normally actually sounds like a bad thing, because you're going -1 card advantage. But the card you discard is probably going to be a tier card, so you get more resources back from it. If this card is sent to the graveyard by card effect, you can target one tier trap in your graveyard, add it to your hand. Each of its effects is a hard one per turn that is shared, so if I use the first one, I can use the second one, and you get the point. Scream is a continuous spell card, that makes it so anytime monster is summoned, you can, while you control Vsauce or tier, you can send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. Also, for the rest of the turn, all monsters your opponent controls lose 500 attack. If this card is sent to the graveyard by card effect, you can target one Tear Trap from your deck to your hand. Unlike these ones that either get it from our graveyard or banished. This one seems most useful, and because we don't just have to worry about accidentally sending it from the top of our deck, if we can place it on the field, and if our opponent decides to get rid of it, they're going to forcefully give us resources. Now we got one of our field spells. So all of our fusion tier monsters gain 5 in attack. If an Aqua tier monster is sent to the graveyard by card effect, except during the damage step, you can send one level 4 lower Aqua monster from your deck to the graveyard, but you can't send a non-tier monster to the graveyard. For the rest of the turn, you can't activate card effects or effective cards while with the same name as the send card. You can only use that effect once per turn. Let's just get rid of some cards. Now there is one more card that is technically speaking not named tier, but it is as close as we can ever get. Precious Planet Perlino. You can only activate one of them per turn, and when it's activated, you can add a tier or Vsauce monster to your hand. Fusion tiers gain 5 attack. By the way, if you have a fusion tier a fusion monster that is also a Tearlaments monster, it does not gain 1000 attack, it's just 500. Now, if a tier monster you control or in the graveyard is shuffled back into your deck or extra deck, you can target, except during the damage step, you can target one card in the field, destroy it. And of course, you can only do that effect once per turn. Now, not technically named tier, which helps us out in some situations. But let's go over some of the traps. This one makes so if you control a tier or Vsauce, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls, change it to face-down defense position. Then send one tier monster from your deck to the graveyard. If this is sent to the graveyard by card effect, you can target one tier monster in your graveyard, add to your hand. Its effects share a hard one per turn, so if you use the first one, you can't use the second one. If you use the second, you can't use the first. This one makes it so we control a tier Vsauce. We target also both of these. This one is a trap, the one I'm going over right now is a continuous. You target one effect monster upon controls, negate the effects, then send one monster we control to the graveyard, which probably gets us into a tier effect. If this is sent to the graveyard by card effect, we can add any tier monster from our deck to our hand. But, unlike all of our other cards, our spell and trap cards, these do not share a hard once per turn. So if I use the first effect, I am allowed to use the second effect, and vice versa. Then we have Crime. It makes it so when a spell trap card, this is the counter trap, or monster effect is activated, while you control a tier Vsauce monster, negate the activation, and if you do, shuffle that card back in deck, then send one monster from your hand to the graveyard. If this card is sent to the graveyard by card effect, you can target one of your banished tier monsters, add to your hand. You can only use each effect hard written. It's a shared hard once per turn. First one can't use the second one can't use the first one. So let's go over what this actually would mean. We get rid of 2 of our cards to negate one of our opponents. Okay, but the card we discard might be a tier. And what else do we got? We got a negation tool. I guess we got some negation, we get into more cards, but why not go over some of the extra deck cards so we can know what they actually are meant to do. Got Kikalos. This card is banned. I should have mentioned this. This, and this are all limited. You can see it, but it's probably shouldn't be telling you. Merly, Havness, and Sharon are all limited to 1. Now, this one, Kikalos, needs any tier monster and any aqua monster to be able to summon it. If it's summoned, you can take a tier card from your deck and either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard. If you can target one card you control, special one tier monster from your hand or graveyard, and if you do, send the target monster to the graveyard. If this card is sent to the graveyard by card effect, you can send the top 5 cards of your deck to the graveyard. A really cool combo you can do with this is use its effect, add yourself a Merly to hand, activate this card's effect, send it to the graveyard, special summon Merly. Then, as Chain Link 1, activate Kikalos. As Chain Link 2, activate Merly's effect. Now, because they both get their effects, we get to send effectively the top 8 cards for deck to the graveyard. So each effect of Get Close is a hard once per turn, but they don't share, so we can use the first effect as independently as the third effect. Next we have Root Close, which needs Kick Close to be able to summon it, which is definitely worrisome because Kick Close is banned. It also needs any other tier monster. Other Aqua monsters we control can't be destroyed by battle. Cool, but it doesn't protect itself. You can only use each of the flying effects once per turn. When an opponent activates a card or effect, including the effect of special summon a monster, quick effect, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. Then send one card from your hand or face up field to the graveyard. If this fusion summon card is summoned to the graveyard, by card effect, special summon it back. Although, do note, if this card uses its effect to special summon itself back, it is no longer considered fusion summoned. So, if it goes to the graveyard again, you can't just bring it back. Our last one, Kaleido Heart, needs Rhino Heart and two other Aqua monsters. It can't be used as fusion material, so there is no Sewer Poly can be used for this. If this card is special summoned, or if an Aqua monster is sent to the graveyard by card effect, while this card is on the field, you can try to get one card your opponent controls. Shuffle it into the deck. If this card is sent to the graveyard by card effect, you can special summon one card, and if you do, send one cure from your deck to the graveyard. You can only use each of its effects once per turn. So we can shuffle our opponent's cards into the deck pretty easily just by special summoning some cards or getting some resources back to our graveyard. Or we have the other effect where it's in the graveyard, we bring it back. Again, if it brings back by its own effect, it will not be allowed to use it again because it's no longer considered fusion summoned. And I don't have a deck profile for you here. As honestly, by this point, tier is not as it once was. It used to be tier 0, dominating the format with ease. But now, it can't really do that anymore. Because all of this is banned, meaning this is pretty much unusable. This, and this are limited ones, so it's really hard to get into them. And the cards that always work with it, known as the seizure cards, are nearly impossible to use, as they're all limited to 1. So, what are we going to do? Maybe just move on to a different deck? I do have other videos you can watch. Maybe one of those would take your interest. No, not also click that subscribe button gently, just so you don't hurt its feelings.